point statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Keep fans. Time for the best insight of your favorite team with insider Ira Winderman, exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. It's the Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat and NBA report. Here's Ira Winderman.
He is locked and loaded and ready to go. How you feeling, Ira?
Camp started. I'm back in the grind. 36 years. Same old, same old.
Yes. Same old, same old. It's kind of what we were saying on Sunday for the Dolphins. That's another thing. Anyway, now let's. Sorry, just you served it up, the volley. I
know, but be positive. Be positive. The Marlins are playing when the Heat open camp, so there is that. That is different this year. So let's be optimistic here.
Will Messi play while the Marlins are playing and the Heat are back in camp today?
You know what? It's almost like he's on the Jimmy Butler playing schedule where he signed the contract and he said 20 games, that's it.
Can you imagine the dilemma of that team for next year? They have the CONCACAF, they have the Champions League, they have friendlies, they have the Leagues Cup, they have the U.S. Open Cup, they have the MLS season. And they're going to tell people are going to buy tickets for Messi for all of those things? Oh, God. There's no way he plays all of that.
Big O, but here's the problem.
It's like a real shitstorm that they're about to get into, okay?
And that's why the MLS is not a legitimate World Soccer League. They play on a different schedule. They play through international competitions. Remember, Messi got hurt when he was off playing for Argentina in an important qualifying game for them. Until the MLS adopts the world schedule, adopts a World Cup schedule, so you're not playing games every 3 days. Big O, to sort of put it in perspective for football fans, can you imagine if the Dolphins were playing a cup schedule and had games every Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday, right? Same thing. Right. Soccer is a game. You're running a football field. You're running more than in football. You play once a week. Maybe in Europe you have once or twice a month at the most cup games on your Wednesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes even, as happened with the MLS, where they had to move the game against Charlotte because they were still in the Leagues Cup, they'll adjust the schedule. But until the MLS, which it never will do head-to-head with football, plays a world schedule, which would be so much better in South Florida not to have those July games and June games in the intense heat, there'll never be a primo top-tier league. Nope. One thing about soccer, unlike basketball and baseball and any other sport, there is a world governing body in FIFA that controls everything. Either you're in lockstep or else you wind up with the situation you are with Messi right now. I mean, it's crazy. I keep asking my sons, when's InterMiami playing? It's like they're playing every day.
Oh, yeah. It's been I think it's every 4 days that they've played on this streak, which it's too much. You can't, not with that kind of sport. You just cannot.
And what makes soccer special like football, it's an event sport. Every Saturday or Sunday, you have your Premier League team playing Man City, Man United, Liverpool, and it's an event. You tailgate at You tailgate at the Dolphins. It's not baseball. It's not, crap, we're playing the Pirates again today. That's what the MLS has gotten into. It's going to be very interesting. Do you try to maximize your domestic revenue, or do you try to become a world power league? We're about to find out, Big O.
Consumer, because I was talking about this yesterday. You're just better off paying the full tilt, and that day he's playing, okay, then go buy the ticket, and if you have to pay extra, so what? But if you're going to buy a ticket 2 months ahead of time, and you're going to pay $500 for that ticket, and then that day he's not going to play, you're going to end up selling it for $50 or $30. You're going to get a fraction of your money, and you never got to see Messi. So you're almost better off at this point for next year. Brother, you want to go to a game? Well, make sure first he's playing, and when he's playing, then pay the scalper's price and just, suck it up. But at least you get to see what you paid for, because look what's happening today in Chicago. They sold 50,000 tickets after he was announced that he was coming. And so now he's not going to play. Those people may want to sell those tickets, and they're not going to get anything for those tickets. And you see it in the games. The second he goes to the bench, thousands run for the exits. They're not even Inter fans. They're just there for the messy experience, and then they're gone.
No, I think the only way to get out of it right now and keep the fans happy is just send Taylor Swift to the game instead.
There you go. I like that. All right, so new season. We got plenty of time to talk about the basketball. But one of the things I talked about with Chang, and I want to talk with you, is unfortunately, I get the Jermaine Stewart look. Okay, I know they all call it emo, but I'm older, so I go Jermaine Stewart. We don't have to take our clothes off to have a good time and all that good stuff. He looks exactly like Jermaine Stewart. But anyway,
I thought it was more Andre 3000 and Hey Ya. I thought that was the perfect comp for the look.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But I mean, Jermaine Stewart is one that definitely he absolutely fits. But anyway, it's been 20 years. We're approaching 20 years since Riley brought in a whale. Pretty much it's been Wade that's been bringing in whales. 5 years ago when they signed Jimmy, it was, okay, you got to try to get that other star. They haven't been able to. Jimmy hasn't been able to recruit. To me, that's been the bigger issue. Do I know that they're going to be good this year? Yes. Do I know Spo's the best and he'll get the max out of these guys and maybe they'll improve from within? Probably. I mean, that's Spo. He's the best. He's awesome. But I still don't think that they're a championship team. You know what I mean? In the end, because Jimmy doesn't have that star next to him. So my question, I think the bigger problem right now that we have is, can this Heat team and the front office, can they recruit the whales anymore? Can they get the stars to get here? And I know they put it themselves in a difficult position because they don't have a lot of chips to play this poker game with, but that's the part that kind of hurts, that you have Jimmy and you've got a team that can be right there on the brink and you just can't find that other star.
Well, I'll give you another rock and roll analogy, and I just think the times they are a-changing, and I'll tell you why. Except for the Golden State Warriors, whose stars are homegrown. They were drafted, they remain there, Clay, Steph, Draymond. The only team that has successfully loaded up and really done that with stars has been the Lakers, bringing in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. But, Big O, let's look at the other teams that tried to do this amassing stars, like you said, get an alpha and a beta. It failed in Brooklyn with Durant and Harden and Kyrie. It certainly has failed in Philadelphia. Lord knows what James Harden is going to deliver in terms of means of destruction in Philadelphia.
Wrong ingredients. But
Right. And now we're waiting in Philadelphia to see if it works with Beal and Durant. It might not. I think the lesson from this league has been learned. It's not only about amassing stars, it's about amassing the right stars.
Yes.
And I think that Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg, for basketball reasons, and perhaps Mickey Arison for financial reasons, are saying, don't just get me a star, get me the right star. Because you just pointed out, you might say that Jimmy Butler came because of Dwayne, but let's face it, it was a Riley culture also. But since then, the star that Mickey paid $85 million for was Kyle Lowry. And that thing, I think we can all agree, I guess this is very poor phrasing, but went belly up on the Heat. So now they're in trouble because of that. So I think what's happened is this, is the Heat have retrenched a little and said it has to be the right player. Damian Lillard was the right player. I don't think they necessarily were sold on Bradley Beal as being the right player with his lack of playoff success. Dame did have playoff success earlier in his career, had his moments there. So I think it's a matter of it has to be the right player. I think Drew Holiday was the right player. They didn't get him, but we know that they tried. So I think it's not the same as it used to be. We want a big three. You have to load up on a big three. I think it's become more Pat Riley and Andy has to be the right player. Mickey Arison has to be the right salary cap fit, because the salary cap now and the luxury tax is so different. You can't as easily maneuver through a mistake as you did before. Kyle Lowry, let's be honest, mistake. Duncan Robinson, let's be honest, mistake.
Dude.
And when you have bad money on your books that's not going anywhere, man, does that make it harder to maneuver. So the Heat's failures have been compounded by the Heat's failures, that it's that much harder to add that alpha or beta because you all have, I guess when in football you would call your dead money on your cap. I know Lowry and Robinson are still playing, but they're not playing at their salary level. That's
Right.
really compounded the whole thing.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that that's definitely the issues there. And so, are you better off then? Because once you're able to get out of Lowry, are you, even if you can't make a trade, even if you can't find some kind of a star or half star that's available in the trading deadline to move them, are you almost better off for the future of the Heat to try to stay liquid instead of trying to commit to the wrong players? And then that way, I know stars rarely become available, but man, maybe somebody will become available, so at least you have the cap space to accommodate that person.
Good.
In so if you're so worried about the right player in the right space, all of that, well then create it then. Create it, because you do have the best chef there is in the NBA. So give them a bunch of young players and take up less space, and try to keep yourself a little bit more liquid from year to year in the future. Why not do something like that?
So here's the rumor that's going around. You can talk about it on the rest of your shows and your other shows this week. Is one of Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson to the Sixers for James Harden and PJ Tucker. The money not only matches, but you would get off of 2 years of Duncan Robinson at the end for 1 extra year of PJ Tucker. Now, where it gets interesting, Big O, is the thought is the Heat would have to throw in some sugar there. They'd have to throw in a first-round pick, and that's where Ira says no. That's where I say stop. You have to amass and retain your first-round picks, because we know it takes multiple first-rounders to get the whale, to get the big fish. So you could do something smaller like that and buy time. Number 2, Big O, and this is going to be very interesting when we're talking in our Acura Pembroke Pines reports in the offseason. Jimmy Butler is eligible for a massive 2-year extension next summer, taking him through his 40th birthday. Where do you draw the line? Well, Big O, we've seen unhappy Jimmy, and I'm terrified. So you have to deal with that possibility. The Heat's going to have to maneuver through that. I agree. Don't keep throwing away future money on older players. That's what makes this season so critical. Screw Joe Cronin and the Blazers if they didn't like the Heat's young talent. But if I can show that Nikola Jovic is something, if I can show that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is something, if I can show those nitwits out there that Tyler Hero is a hell of a lot more than a player who's been denigrated all summer, and at the least is Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford, a career guy who could be an outstanding sixth man and give you 20 points on any given night, you reestablish value. So I think there's dual goals for the Heat this season. Number 1, make the playoffs contend, because that's who they are. But number 2, enhance the value of your youth. So people who this summer said, the Heat doesn't have anything to offer Portland and it's not worth making a deal, might go next summer and going, damn, the Blazers could have had Jovic and Jaquez and Hero, and they blew it. And then you go in with more value, create added value. To me, this is like those House Hunter shows when you buy the rental project because you know you can build equity. The Heat can build equity in Jaquez, in Jovic, in Hero, and maybe some of their other young players.
Yeah, I mean that's kind, and you have the right guy to bring the best out of those guys.
Yes, the right guys. Spo for the developmental program, and Riley and Ellisberg to motivate and maximize values that they have before. Perfect example. I just posted at sunsentinel.com. I know Anthony Chang wrote a story in the Herald on the same subject. Because of the way the Miami Heat were able to maximize the value of second-round number 40 pick Josh Richardson, they were able to flip him into Jimmy Butler. If Josh Richardson never developed that value as a number 40 pick, Philadelphia would have said, screw it, you don't have cap space, you can't have Jimmy. You've developed your assets to keep, maybe, like Bam Adebayo, to trade, maybe, like Josh Richardson. So it's up to Spo and his developmental staff to maximize the value. It's then up to Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg to take that value to market.
Would you say the Heat have the kind of crazy determination that you're seeing from Panther ownership, from Inter Miami ownership, and Dolphin ownership, that they're going all out?
I would put it this way. The money and the markets work differently. In hockey, they have this remarkable clause. If you make a mistake, you give a player half his money and he's gone. They have that out clause. In football, as you know, you can always restructure dead money. How many times have you said they're going to move this hit out? They're going to get rid of this guy? Usually you can do that. There's that machination. In basketball, when you are stuck with bad money and there's no longer the amnesty clause like the Heat used with Mike Miller to excise a bad contract, Mickey Harrison is, remember, the Miami Heat have the 6th highest payroll in the NBA right now. Now, that kind of sucks because they don't have the 6th best level of talent. I think you would agree with that, Big O. But I defend Mickey Harrison from this standpoint. I gave you the money for Kyle Lowry. I gave you the money for Duncan Robinson. The money has been put on your table in a big old sack, Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon, Nick Harrison, and Pat Riley. If you make a mistake with that, you better find a damn way to recover. Big O, it's like anything else. It's like when someone goes and makes an investment and thinks it's going to go up and it goes down. Well, it's not like you keep pouring extra cash into your mistakes. So I think that's the difference with the Heat. The Panthers were able to get out of bad money. The Dolphins always get out of the Ndamukong Suh contract. They get out of their bad money and they move on. In baseball, there is no salary cap. You can move on from your bad money. The NBA could be more punitive there. You've got to make the right decisions. We see it all across the league. You overpay for bad. Hello, Ben Simmons. You wind up having to deal with that going forward.
No, remember, I didn't mention Sherman. Okay, I didn't. I mentioned only the
But he has an out clause. If Sherman wants to spend more at any point, he can. He can go Yankees. He can spend the big money. Obviously, he doesn't have the revenue stream that the Heat have, that the Panthers look like they're developing, and certainly, like Stephen Ross with his mega corporation and sports complex down there, can print money.
I guess my frustrations are from you've had a great opportunity the last 5 years. Because I have to include this offseason too now. And man, you can't ask for more. 3 Eastern Conference Finals, 2 NBA Finals, and you're a star away. You're just 1 star away because everything else is kind of in place to support Jimmy and that other star to give you a legit shot at winning a title because you're such a fundamentally sound team. Because you have the best coach in the business. And to me, that's just the frustrating part for me is that you just can't cross that damn threshold and you can't find that legitimate other star. And I know in this conversation, we've already mentioned Kyle Lowry, but it's not hindsight for me. And you know it. It just that was not a move that I thought ever made any sense whatsoever.
But they thought it did.
Yeah, man. It's just that's the frustrating part because
well, let me ask you part B here.
They might have had one of these titles in the last 5 years.
Let me ask you part B here, and you and your listeners can debate this also. Would you have offered? Let me get to the whole deal here. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Caleb Martin, 2 first-round picks and 3 first-round swaps for Damian Lillard.
No,
so
I'm not doing the Melo deal.
Okay, so there was the possibility there if the Heat went all in and threw everything in the big old bucket hat of Tyler Hero, but they didn't. So they could have, but they were prudent. Same thing with Bradley Beal. They could have, but they were prudent. These are basketball decisions as well as financial decisions. And I don't know, as much as you might think Pat Riley's lost his fastball, as much as you might think Andy Ellisberg might not be the same wizard with the numbers, I still defy you to find me another front office. You can point to the Lakers if you want with Rob Pelinka and what they've done, but I defy you to find me another front office and say, those guys have it right. Even Matt Ishiba in, or however you pronounce that, in Phoenix, maybe he does have it right with Durant and Booker and Beal, but I need to see it first. Because if they don't make at least the conference finals, and honestly, the NBA finals, oh my God, that guy is so deep in the Milwaukee Bucks and what they're spending. If it doesn't work with Giannis and Middleton and Lillard and Lopez and the money they spent this offseason, we'll see. You know what? You have bad money. You have to deal with it. After this year, Kyle Lowry goes away. After this year, Duncan Robinson becomes more tradable. So you know what? I would still go into next offseason with the optimism.
Oh, yeah, but next offseason, what's left of Jimmy?
Oh, a year older. Oh, without question, a year older.
You talk about an extension. I wouldn't have given him the current extension he's on. You know, that's me.
And then he wouldn't have played with the same motivation, which is why this decision next summer, if Jimmy Butler leads you again deep into the playoffs, How can you say no to that when the games mean the most, Jimmy plays the best?
No,
Yeah.
I get that, but the injuries and the reason why you were an 8 seed, it's because he missed a shit ton of games, and he's gonna miss
And it
games
didn't
again.
matter. And it
Yeah.
didn't matter. And
No,
it didn't matter
and
because
it
you and
did
I.
better this year. I don't know if that's going to be the case every year if you play. I don't know if you can play loosey-goosey like that and say, well, we're not going to take the season that serious, and doesn't matter if we're the 7 or 8 seed, we'll still make it to the finals. That's playing with fire, dude, because that's not normal. It's
And
just
you know
not.
what? And Pat Riley's like the guy at the luau with the fire stick. They were the 5th seed in 2020, made the finals. They were the number 1 seed in 2022, made the Eastern Conference Finals. They were the number 7 finisher, number 8 seed, made the finals. So, yes, kids don't play with fire. Miami Heat have a fire extinguisher nearby, but they pulled it off. But they
No,
pulled it off because of playoff Jimmy and playoff Spo.
but we're watching the Heat play with fire by playing with Jimmy this far into his career with this kind of mileage and wear and tear. And, I don't want to predict anything like horrible, but it's just one of those things that you can only, it's good. We bring it full circle. We go back to Messi. You can only ask a human being to do so much. And you have asked Jimmy above and beyond, and he's delivered. But his body has also paid the price for it. And you just worry about what's the breaking point for that poor guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
But
so
you say that about LeBron also. You've said that about LeBron. There are some guys.
No, but LeBron's a cyborg.
Maybe
LeBron,
Jimmy is. Maybe Jimmy is. Maybe
LeBron
Jimmy is.
and Jim Brown and Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal,
Jimmy
and
Butler.
Yeah, no, Jimmy's not like those guys.
How do you know?
Because those guys play like complete seasons and they run over people and they're like total freaks. I'm talking about LeBron is one of those like dudes that are rare in sports. They're just these physical freaks. Nobody can be compared to LeBron. You have to go to Walter Payton and you have to go to like really, really special athletes that could, like stand the test of time. Jimmy breaks down.
Well, you know what I'd say? Until he has another,
it's like this dam that's holding back a lot of water, and then
it's
you're
still holding back. And it's still holding back until he has another 2021 playoffs when he was awful against the Bucks and they were swept. If that happens again, Big O, I'm coming over. I'm agreeing with you. I have no issue with that. But if it doesn't happen again, he finds a way at the moments that matter the most to be there. If 2021 happens again, remember, I'm super ready and super motivated, even super awful. If that happens again, then I'm buying into what you're saying.
I love his heart. I just wish he had the help. I wish he had the other guy that could take the load off of him. The other guy that he could because he could easily, happily facilitate for another star. That's the beauty of Jimmy, that he won't have the ego that I've got to get all my shots. If he had Dane or he had another guy that he could count on, he could take several nights off without actually literally taking them off. He could literally play the game and kind of coast and let the other guy do his thing. You know what I mean? That if you had that, then I'd feel better about moving with Jimmy as you get older. But if we keep putting the weight of the world and he's got to be Atlas every single night, I just there's a breaking point, and you just fear that we're going to hit it at one point where he's going to have one of those injuries that he's done for the year, and it's just his body has worn down. I just fear it, man. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Sucks. But I just wish they could get that other star to kind of help him out. Yeah. What are you going to do? All right. What do you got going on the Sun Sentinel?
Josh Richardson story I told you about, just amazing. I mean, this guy has played with Joel Embiid and Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic and Brandon Ingram since he left the Heat. So he's done the world tour. He feels comfortable again. He's needed. He's necessary. And in my Ask Ira at sunsentinel.com today, Kyle Lowry says he's starting. Eric Spoelstra pulls a Lee Corso and goes, not so fast, my friend. So I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic throughout the preseason when we see the lineups and then when we get to that October 25th opener against the Pistons.
Well, he says he's in shape. Hopefully he doesn't look like me. Follow him on Twitter. Yeah, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heat Beat. More importantly, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel like I and many others do. Ira, as always, thank you, my friend. We will catch up next week.
Catch you next week in our Acura Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir.
You've been listening to the Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA report with Ira Winderman. When you're looking for award-winning service and great deals from the #1 volume Acura sales dealership in the Southeast United States, you go to Craig's Inn Acura of Pembroke Pines at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.